Good evening. It is Wednesday, February 1st. It's just the 1st. It's February 1st, 2017. It is 7 p.m. and we are going to call to order the Ottawa City Commission meeting for February. Could we please have a roll call?
Mayor Kaler.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Present.
Commissioner Graves.
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
All commissioners are present and accounted for. We'd like to welcome everyone who is here in the audience tonight, and especially a warm welcome to our Boy Scouts who are here for a very special event that happens every single year. We're always happy to have them here. We are going to begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation with our Director of Finance, Scott Bird. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
From the book of Numbers. God spoke to Moses and said, "Send men to scout out the country of Canaan." Let's pray. Lord God in heaven, we are called to scout out for you from time to time. Actually, all of the time. And it's a joy to have scouts with us this evening. And I'm reminded that the final point of the scout law is that a scout is reverent. That is, they are to build their lives on being reverent. May we all live in such a way that we seek to be reverent towards God, and everything that we seek to do be in our midst this evening, Lord God. May what you hear and see be reverent. We pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. That moves us on to our consent agenda, which includes items 6, 7, 8, and 9. Including individuals who have resigned from our boards and commissions, especially the Planning Commission, and approval of new members for our boards and commissions. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, this moves us on to the regular agenda. And the first item on that agenda is public comment. Are there individuals who have registered to speak in public comment?
No, ma'am.
Are there individuals in the community that would like to address us through public comment? Seeing none, I will move forward. Next is declaration. At this time, I'd like to give commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that may influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Commissioners? Seeing none, we will move forward. New business.
A proclamation recognizing February 5th through 11th, 2017 as Boy Scout Week.
The Boy Scouts of America were incorporated on February 8th, 1910. Each year, this anniversary is commemorated with Scout Week. Boy Scouts provide an educational program for boys and young adults to build character, to train the responsibilities of participating citizenship, and to develop personal fitness. Members of the Ottawa Cub Scout packs and Boy Scout troops will accept this proclamation, and the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Boy Scouting was founded in 1907 by British General Robert Baden-Powell, and whereas, partially due to a selfless act of duty by a British boy forever known as the Unknown Scout, scouting arrived in the United States on February 8, 1910. And whereas President Woodrow Wilson first proclaimed Boy Scout Week in 1919 in recognition of Scouts during service of World War I. And whereas, throughout its rich history, Scouting has staunchly promoted loyalty, trustworthiness, and reverence towards God. And whereas, for more than 100 years, Boy Scouts of America has provided training to youth in leadership development, service to others, and civic responsibility. And whereas, many Ottawa youth have participated in scouting programs and have gone on to be accomplished leaders serving our community and our country. And whereas the ideals of scouting are still alive today and well. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas does hereby proclaim February 5th through 11th, 2017 as Boy Scout Week in the City of Ottawa and urges all citizens to join in celebrating and supporting Boy Scout programming and activities in our community. Signed this day, 1st of February 2017 by the Mayor, Sarah Kaler. Who would like to come up and receive this? I want to hear from a Boy Scout. Oh, yeah. I'm going to start calling you by name. I'm going to point you out. I mean, so.
Or all of you come on up.
Yes.
There you go.
Come on up. We're going to shake hands. You're going to grab this side right here. You look over here. If you, young man, will look right over here, we're going to get our picture taken. Great. And now, would you please, both of you, go to the microphone, introduce yourself, and tell me the best thing about being in Boy Scouts.
My name is Kenneth Nowatzki.
And my name is Kaden Harbison.
My favorite thing about Scouts is going to Scout camp every summer.
And learning by experience.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, boys.
Got one more behind you there.
Oh, come on. Young man, you can move that down. It'll come down for you. There you go.
I am from Pack 3079. I am Riker Harbison. My favorite thing about Scouts is the campouts.
Excellent. Excellent. Great. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it. Give Scouting a round of applause. Next, that moves us on to item 13 on the agenda.
Presentation of Let's Move 5 Gold Medal Award.
This is recognition for successfully completing all 5 Let's Move cities, towns, and county goals. This award will be accepted by Wendy Lee and Fonda Rose. And before we do that, I want to read just a little paragraph about this initiative that we actually started when I was mayor the first time, and a little bit about what this initiative stands for. Today, or take this back, in November, when we actually received this award, there were 92 cities in the United States that had achieved 5 gold medals in recognitions for their efforts. Medals are awarded to communities based on their achievements in improving access to healthy, affordable food and promoting physical activity. The City of Ottawa has several partners here with Let's Move. We are partners with ECAN, with ORC, with USD 290, with the preschools, and with our library. We are one of, just like I said earlier, 92 cities to achieve this award, but we are the only city in Kansas to receive this award this year. So, saying that, I'd like Wendy Lee to come up and receive this plaque that we received, and it states, in recognition of stepping up to the challenge to reduce childhood obesity and successfully completing all 5 Let's Move cities, towns, and county goals, the City of Ottawa is recognized with Let's Move cities, towns, and counties 5 Gold Medal Award, which is the ultimate award with Let's Move. Awesome. Great, thank you. We'd love to hear from you. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor knows, we originally heard about this when we went to a Play Summit. NLC members, staff members were sitting at our table, and they said, well, gosh, if you're already a Play City, that's 1 gold medal down. So we went, oh, good. But then it took us a couple of years to achieve the others. And it sounds like, well, that's just 1 task per thing. No. Every medal required a bronze, a silver, and a gold, and every one of those medals required 3 to 5 to 7 steps within each one. in order to be designated having achieved one of those medal standings. And as we went through, we had several news releases, and I'm sure some people followed that. But it was kind of a neat thing to do in partnership with other folks to recognize some things and to bring awareness to certain things. One of the things we did was go with ECAN and look at their lunch meal count, and then understand the schools count with kids who are on free and reduced meals, and understand what happens when spring break comes or summer's here, but then there's a gap at the end of the summer or after school. And so it was a good learning process. And then new programs were started too. We did an education program with a lot of preschools and daycares to help them understand that if they will incorporate that starting when those kids are 2 and 3, that there be a certain amount of activity in every given day, and that we be encouraged to use the My Plate diagram for our plate for vegetables and meat, protein, and our dairy. That the earlier we start learning those habits, the more likely we will actually be able to deal with childhood obesity and adult obesity, frankly, and make our community and state and country a more healthy place. So it was a great opportunity to do it. We appreciate the mayor's leadership. It was good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for celebrating this initiative. That moves us on to item 14 on the agenda.
Presentation for Play Task Force Shoe Drive.
The Ottawa Play Task Force recently launched a shoe drive to raise money for the new teen park. Mrs. Rose will be here to share details of the shoe drive. We're all here ready to listen. And then we have something to share with you.
Okay. January 9th, we started our shoe fundraiser. It's through an organization called Funds to Orgs, based out of Florida. And basically we get 40 cents a pound for shoes. Our goal is to try to get 300 bags, so like a regular garbage bag size. Each garbage bag has 25 pairs of shoes in it. So our goal is to get 300 bags of 25 pairs of shoes. Since January 9th, I have had this running with all of my physical education classes at the middle school, and we have 310 pairs of shoes, so that's a little over 12 bags so far. We have drop-off locations at Ottawa Middle School, Ottawa High School, City Hall, Goppert Building. Lincoln Elementary is now doing a small 2-week shoe drive fundraiser. That information went out today. I think it started today. Maybe information went out yesterday. Sacred Heart is also doing a small shoe drive there, and so that they can drop them off at Lincoln Elementary now. They can drop them off at Sacred Heart. And then just recently we've had Ottawa Chiropractic come and say that they would also like to join in on this to be another drop location for our shoe fundraiser. So the shoes go to underdeveloped countries, Ghana, Haiti, places like this, that the micro enterprises, basically the shoes are given to a family to teach them how to kind of have a business and how to financially hold themselves stable through selling shoes. So the fundraiser goes clear up until April 9th. So, and I have lots of support with all of these shoes here in front of me. Thank you if you brought some shoes today.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Rose, we appreciate all your service on the Ottawa Play Task Force, and we have been blessed to have you as a part of, really a partner with making sure that our parts are promoted. And I think this is another fine example of just thinking outside of the box and getting every single person involved. Everybody in the room here and everybody listening has an extra pair of shoes that we're not wearing, if not dozens of them.
Yeah.
And I challenge each of you who are listening to make that donation of a couple pairs of shoes to make a difference not only in our teens' lives here locally, but really worldwide. So I did challenge each of our commissioners and our department heads to bring shoes today, and so that is what you see. If you have not had a chance and you brought a donation of shoes, we would like for you to bring those up. All of our commissioners here are going to join and join their shoes to this part, and this is just the beginning. We're actually going to do a shoe drive within our departments here in the city of Ottawa, and we appreciate all the initiatives that you're really spurring forward. So we knew we can make this happen, and it's important to our teens to give something back to them. And goodness knows my teen has plenty of shoes she can give away. So, anyway, Commissioner Graves, do you have shoes you'd like to donate?
I do.
Okay.
Over there? Oh, I thought you were going to try to drop them over there.
I put mine down already. So.
Commissioner, yeah, it's all right. Commissioner Skidmore's already said donated his.
That's right. There we go.
Ooh, did you buy new ones?
No.
Oh, I was like, wow,
There you go.
Commissioner Skidmore, way to go.
Using everything.
All right, here are my shoes.
Here's mine. Oops.
Yeah, and Commissioner Jorgensen is generous today.
Oh, my.
Well, I dug deep in my closet. Got 6 pairs here.
Wow. There you go. Your wife won't mind?
Oh, but these are from your wife's closet.
Kelly, no. She picked them out.
Excellent, excellent. Again, I challenge every single person who actually hears this, whether they're hearing it on the radio, watching it through whatever media source they may watch it, to please just dig deep and find a couple pairs of shoes that you can donate. I'd love to see Boy Scouts make it something that maybe you could do for your upcoming meetings and have your boys bring some extras and families bring some extra shoes. It's really a good thing. So what else do you have to tell us today?
Ottawa Teen Park is started. They started moving ground maybe a month or so ago. If you look at 15th Street and between 15th and 17th along Prairie Spirit Rail Trail, you've seen there's been some dirt moved in there, just trying to level it out to get it ready to pour some concrete to lay the foundations for the basketball courts and skate park amenities that are coming. That park is going to be over $250,000 when it's complete. So.
And Mrs. Rose, remind me, all that money has not yet been fundraised
No,
for.
it's not. That's kind of why we're doing this shoe drive. It's so big that we have to put it into 3 different phases just to kind of chunk it up into doable monetary parts so that we can just see some progress so that our teenagers know that we haven't forgotten about them. So
Absolutely. Good. It's a worthwhile project. Thank you.
very much so.
We appreciate you coming here today and explaining it to us about the shoe drive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we move on to item 15 on the agenda.
Presentation by USD 290.
Dr. Stroh will share the school district's vision and progress on all the exciting things that are happening for our teens and younger.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity this evening. And we wanted to present, this vision is 4 years old, and we've been working towards that, but we know that it's a collective commitment from all of us to ensure that our kids live and grow in a community that is safe, healthy, a great place to be. And so we appreciate the opportunity to talk about our vision and what we're doing in terms of our vision. Oops. Did I turn off the lights?
No.
Okay.
It's magic. It just happens.
Touch a button.
You think it and they go off. There you go.
Okay, Matt said be careful what buttons I push, so I was just a little bit worried. So 4 years ago, our school board set the vision that all our students will graduate from high school, college and career ready. And we define that to mean that they'll have the knowledge, the skills, and the behaviors to hold life-sustaining employment. 50% of our kids live in poverty, and so it's imperative that everything we do each and every day goes to that vision, is focused on that vision. And we know if we can get our kids a high school diploma and some education beyond that, that they can hold life-sustaining employment for themselves and their family, and the next generation will not live in poverty. And so Dr. Cobbs and Mr. Robinson are going to talk about where we are in terms of that vision.
I wanted to thank you for your time this evening. Part of the work we're doing right now at each school is taking the vision that Dr. Stroh and our board had set and really defining what does that mean in practice. Because when you talk graduation rate, part of our conversation has been the group of people who really bear the burden of that right now are our high school teachers. And how do we define for an elementary teacher in preschool or kindergarten what their role is? Because when we look at our data on our students who aren't making it all the way to graduation, we know that there's some factors all the way starting down in 3rd and 4th grade that we can identify that contribute to that. So what pieces do we put in place to really lessen the chance that a student will reach high school without the skills they need to be successful? And so, as we've talked with teachers and we've talked with principals, the model that you see before you is one that's still being revised. But our goal as a district from our teacher standpoint is to make sure that every one of our classrooms provides a high level of instruction. And with that, that it's a structure that allows for every student to be engaged throughout their day. And we know right now there are things we can control in our classroom, and that's where we're starting. What are those things that we can do from a teaching standpoint and from a school standpoint to structure our school day, structure our classrooms, to get the highest level of student engagement? And then some of the other work that Dr. Cobbs will talk about is also how do we provide those supports and pieces for our families to get some of those roadblocks out of the way so that kids come to school with a better chance of being engaged. I'm going to start on the bottom, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Cobbs, because the bulk of this triangle will change from year to year. As we see new initiatives, we see new data come in and push us in different directions. But ultimately, when we started looking at how our schools are functioning, and we want a system of schools, we want schools where there's some consistency, and you know whether your students at Garfield or at the middle school or at the high school level that there are pieces that no matter where you go are important to our system. It's those 4 foundational pieces across the bottom that we're working hard all the time. Those things are going to stay consistent from year to year. We know it's important for us to build relationships, and that's relationships in classrooms with students, that's relationships with families. It's a matter of building relationships like we're continuing to do with the city and the county and other stakeholders that support our school system. We also know that role is changing. We want to make sure we're supporting our families. We also know in our community that our teachers and our staff have to take on at times the role of an advocate. And we've got to really be pushing both individual students and families, and so we're trying to make sure we're providing that expectation to our staff at this time. The climate and culture piece tie real close together. We want to make sure we've got schools that are safe, that are focused on learning, and that we're using our resources the best that we can. And ultimately, we want to build school cultures at each individual school that no matter where your student is, you know there are things that you can expect. You can expect that teachers are going to be focused on decisions that are best for kids. They're going to be focused on what's going to get the most impact out of their students, that all students are going to have a place and the resources they need to be successful. Part of what you'll notice as you go through this, and I only bring it up because it's one of my main responsibilities, and that is nowhere on here will you see the word special education or Yale student or homeless, and yet that's a big focus of what we're doing. And yet we believe that those resources and supports we're putting in place need to be available for all students. And we need to make sure when we're talking about students who receive special education services that we're building a good system to support them, but that we're not singling them out, and that piece is part of everything we do within our district. The last piece at the bottom of the triangle is communication, and that's part of what we're trying to do tonight is continue to communicate our vision. But the other piece with working with our staff is really making sure that there again is some consistency, that when a teacher is communicating a process or an approach to parents, that some of those things that we've identified as core beliefs of our system are coming out, whether it's a teacher at Lincoln or a high school teacher. We know there's still work to be done with that piece, and that's the piece that we'll continue to come back to. That's the piece we're continuing to work on building principles as to how do we build that within each school. And I'll let Dr. Cobbs talk about the work that we're doing with staff.
All right, so for the past 4 weeks, we've been traveling to each of our schools and having a conversation about what this vision is and trying to communicate with them with regard to motivation and what we really need to do, and also gaining some insight as to what they need from us in order for us to achieve this vision. There are some things that are somewhat confounding as we have this conversation. When we talk about all of our students graduating, we know that the weight of graduation rests primarily on junior and senior teachers, that with the way that our school system works and as students move up, we don't really talk about graduation until we get right up to the end, and typically it's those junior and senior teachers that are making that push to the end. the goal and part of this conversation is making sure that each of us understand what our role is in pushing towards graduation, starting with pre-K and working with families of very young children, all the way up to that point. And the publicity that we get about our vision and the graduation typically, again, comes from that high school. We hear very little. And we've got great things that we've accomplished at that level. For instance, if you look at some of the things that are on here, C3, primarily a high school initiative, but when you talk about the rigor and the expectation of what we're doing, it goes beyond that. But when you look at 73 students participating in college-level courses last year at Ottawa High School in comparison to over 170 this year with the implementation of C3, we begin to understand that the issue is not about students wanting to take rigorous coursework. It's about students being able to afford to take rigorous coursework. And those are some of the barriers that we've broken down. You can also talk about some things that we've seen at that level in terms of ACT. All of our junior students take the ACT now. 2 years ago when we first implemented ACT, we got our CUD score. We were pretty proud of that. Last year, that ACT score for the junior students raised an entire point, which is almost unheard of in ACT terms. And we expect that to continue to grow and continue to grow. We can also talk about work keys, and when we take that assessment, nearly 98% of our students reach all of the expectations in order to go into a certain level of job, and it's a huge piece of what we're talking about. That's the piece that we get to put out there, and that's the piece that is promoted and so on and so forth. But the work happens pre-K all the way through 12th grade, and that's part of what we're trying to work with our teachers on, and making sure that we can define what our roles are, because we know that those students that are struggling and those students that are on the verge or we're worried about dropping out at some time down the road, we can identify those kids long before they reach high school. There are identifying characteristics that help us understand that we need to provide some supports and some different things for those students in order to make sure that they reach that success as we continue to move. So as we talk about this, we have an understanding that what we want out of all of our kids is 100% engagement. We want all of our kids to be able to go into a classroom, be 100% engaged by teachers who are providing a high level of instruction. When that happens, the rest of that triangle falls into play. We know that if we have all of our kids engaged, that our curriculum is doing what it's supposed to be doing, that we have appropriate programming that kids want to be in, that we have a high level of rigor and an appropriate level of rigor, that we have kids wanting to do the things that they need to do in order to learn and not just shutting down, that we've provided the type of instruction that is going to limit any types of behaviors that we're going to deal with in our classroom, and that we have the mastery of the standards that we're talking about. When we go and we profess this vision and we work with our teachers about what this vision is and what their work is, and making sure that all of our students reach the 12th grade and graduate with the skills that we talked about. Our goal over the past 4 weeks has been defining what are our areas of greatest need and greatest importance within that triangle. And that triangle started with teachers letting our principals know these are the things that are important to us. These are our areas of concern. These are our areas of need. These are our areas that we need to work on. So as we begin to build it and defining the subcategories that go with it, which include curriculum, programming, rigor, behavior, and subject mastery, we needed to understand which of those is most important to each of our buildings. For instance, you can see that some of those things are isolated to high school, some are middle school, and some are predominantly elementary. We know that as a district that we can't just pick 3 things and say, well, here it is, this is what we've got to go for. Our different schools need some different things. So part of that discussion is getting them to think outside of what we typically do. The question is, if we have these things that we can change, how does that impact your classroom, and what would you do differently to engage more students if you had these things in place? So as we work through this, we have developed the data that we're going to go back to our teachers with and say, this is what we found in our work over the past 4 weeks. These are the things that you have deemed important, and here's how we move forward and develop a plan to ensure that the supports that we put in place, not only for students but also for teachers to provide the best instruction that we can for our kids, is focused on making sure that each one of our students gets to the 12th grade and graduates with the knowledge, skills, and behaviors to attain life-sustaining employment. Okay.
So a big part of this is our bond project, and you'll recall that we passed this bond in April of 2015 that includes the new elementary school, which the sign was just completed yesterday, Sunflower Elementary. Repurpose Eugene Field for programs, specialized programs for our students. Safety and security measures, those were completed this summer, mechanical upgrades, and then we're just starting on the high school. Administrative offices and the science wing are going up first, and the last thing will be the Performing Arts Center at Ottawa High School. We have upgrades to the interior and throughout the building, and then a Career Tech Ed Center to help us in that vision. And as exciting as this bond project is, and it's great fun, we never lose sight of the fact that each and everything that we do is based on what we need to do for our kids, that it's the spaces they need to reach that vision. And so we have a few, we have a few pictures, and you can see Sunflower is in the first picture, and we have a couple of pictures of the work that we did prior to the bond, and then our favorite picture in the center, the evening of April 7th. It was quite a fun evening. And then every day, great things take place, both at Sunflower and at the high school. And so by the next morning, those pictures are old. And so I would just encourage our commissioners and the public to like the USD 290 Facebook page. We try to keep it that pretty well updated, or drive by. It's pretty exciting. But all intended to support the vision for our kids. And then the last picture, that's the Performing Arts Center at Ottawa High School, the outside, and then our design for the lobby of the interior. And that will be completed in 2019. What questions do you have?
Commissioners, questions for Dr. Strode, Dr. Cobbs, or Mr. Robinson?
How about the time frame for the high school and the new grade school? When will those be functional?
We plan to open Sunflower Elementary by the end of June. So the school will start the new year. We'll have a new elementary school open. We'll open the science wing and the new administrative offices in August, just about the time school's starting. And then Career Tech Ed, I forget.
There are 9 different phases to the high school. The first 2 will be open by August. That will include science and admin wing, as well as a renovation of the entire north hallway. About that time, they will start on Media Center. So you'll see the new library coming in, as well as renovation of the 200 hallway in the beginning of CTEC. All of those will be done. The classroom spaces will be done about March of that year. And then CTEC will be done and ready to open by the beginning of the following year. And then shortly thereafter, you see summer of that, we'll see 300 hallway renovation, as well as the beginning of Performing Arts Center and renovation of the cyclone room and weight room areas.
Great. Do you anticipate redistricting for the grade schools, or are you that?
Yes, thank you for that question. In fact, we've been working as an administrative team on that for a few weeks. We'll have a committee get together probably in a few weeks to talk about what's best for kids. One of the things that is our big concern is making sure that no one school becomes the high poverty school. And so balancing that out is going to be very important. It's not our intention to move kids who have been in a school for 4 or 5 years. Our focus right now is really new kindergartners coming in, first and second graders. So we're looking at all of that. We have maps of where all our kids live and so on. So as long as they don't move, we'll have a good plan in place. But we're going to bring some community members in, and parents and teachers to look at that. One of our stumbling blocks is we don't know what our budget will be, and we sure would like to add some staff members to relieve the overcrowding at Garfield and at Lincoln. But we can't do that without additional funding. And so we'll move ahead with our committee, but we probably really won't know what we can do in terms of staffing until we have a budget from the state.
So, if I may, I want to go back to the triangle. I am exceptionally pleased to start working through this and understand it's a work in progress, because as I think back over my life, there was no question that you were going to graduate from high school, that it was important. And I think that from the very day we have a lot of our youth in preschool, that part of it is they need to hear that message. Because truth of the matter is, even with a high school diploma, it is difficult to get a job. But we know if you don't have a high school diploma and you don't get a GED, that it is very, very difficult to progress and support your family. So my question is, what can we do to help with that message?
We certainly appreciate that. And that's why we're here this evening, because we know we're all in this together. This is about our community, and we all have different pieces and parts to that. And so we certainly appreciate that. And I think it's just making sure that we have things like Play Task Force that look after the health and safety of kids, and the things that the city does with regards to parks and so on. All of those things help us help kids out of poverty, and to know what the vision of the district is, and that, you know, graduation for our kids is the number one thing for each and every kid in our district. Anything to add?
I think a big part are some things that you've already begun to do and take an active role in our students' lives. We've seen a number of people on this commission already mentoring kids, providing areas for them to do internships, working with the schools, provide different avenues for kids that sometimes spending 8 hours a day in a brick and mortar school isn't the best thing for those kids. We need to make sure that we provide different avenues for kids to reach their goals and find their success. And I think that's a big piece of what we've tried to do moving forward is working with all of you to understand that we want to do what's best for our kids, and that we understand that what happened in education 20 years ago with this is it, you're supposed to go to college, this is the next thing, it's not the world of education today. And that we can provide a number of different avenues for our kids to find success and to have that life-sustaining employment that are different paths than just go to college. We need to make sure that they understand that first step is getting through high school, and that is the job of everyone in our community to really make sure that we support those kids and we hold them up to a high expectation. When they begin to stumble, that there is enough people there to provide those supports that we make sure that they get through.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Well, I just know the family structure has changed significantly since when I was in grade school, and so I know that challenge is before you as well, with not just educating the children, but also providing for them so many other areas that challenges you have to deal with. And so I just, as one, just appreciate being adaptable that you are in teaching the children and getting them through this process. Good job.
I would point out, especially for our citizens, that for us to be a sustainable community, for us to be a world-class city, and we need to think that way. This is one of the keys to how we remain sustainable and how we progress and how we help provide quality jobs for our youth.
And on the other side of it, the things that you do to provide a world-class community helps us better recruit teachers and improve our programming as well. They go hand in hand.
It's a great partnership. It is. Thank you, Dr. Stroh. Thank you, Dr. Cobbs. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. We appreciate your presentation. That moves us on to item 16 on our agenda.
Request to add properties to the Neighborhood Revitalization Program.
And this goes along with what our school officials were just talking about. The Neighborhood Revitalization Program Review Committee has recommended 2 commercial and 3 residential structures to be included in the program. These addresses these properties are located at 107 South Main, 123 West 4th, 306 South Elm, 630 South Hickory, and 115 North Hickory, North Locust. And Mrs. Lee, now that I've stumbled through that, can you please help make heads or tails of the Neighborhood Revitalization Program?
Sure. You can, shrink that for now. So the city, county, and school district, it's another one of those partnership opportunities, work together for the Neighborhood Revitalization Program. And every time a series of applications come before you, there's action actually taken by each of the governing bodies. In this set of 6, the county and the school board have already taken their action to approve, and so you'll be the last board. Just for the process explanation, property owners or developers or whoever that's doing their improvements make an application. Once they've made their application, they're free to start their project. They won't necessarily know whether they're going to get the rebate, but then neither do we, because until the property is reappraised after the project is complete, none of us really know what the rebate amount might be. After they make their application, and we have several on hand, then we call the committee together, which is comprised of 1 elected member from each of those bodies. Then that committee takes a look at them, make sure that they meet the threshold as far as eligibility, they're within the district, etc. And then they recommend those on to the wider elected official groups. In each of these, there's some that are they're all remodels, I guess. Sometimes there's new things, but these are all remodels. Several are single-family structures, actually half and half. A couple of those are rentals versus homeowner projects. And then the commercial structures include Old City Hall, 107 South Main, which is right down here where the new clinic building or project is, and then 202 West 2nd, which I think is, it's the what used to be the Orsham building, and more recently is the Antique Mall. So those are the 6 projects, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, other questions for Mrs. Lee? Seeing none, if there is a motion to approve this, I'm ready to accept that.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner.
I would move that we approve the request to add these properties as listed to the Neighborhood Revitalization Program.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Neighborhood Revitalization Program as listed in number 16 in our agenda. Is there discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Abstain.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. That moves us on to the next item on the agenda.
Request for approval of resolution for Kansas Municipal Investment Pool.
This updated resolution was necessary because of changes in the Finance Department staff and outlines the authorized agents for this account. I believe Mrs. Simpson will be approaching this matter.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. It's nice to be with you this evening. The Finance Department with the City of Ottawa is presenting to you a resolution authorizing us to participate, or actually to continue to participate, with the Kansas Municipal Investment Pool. That is a request due to the fact that we have new staff members within our department, as was originally mentioned by Mayor Carroll in her reading of that piece. Those people that are on the staff who are participating members of the investment pool are our finance director, Scott Bird, our city clerk, Amy Finch, our assistant city clerk, Laurel Gizmo, assistant city clerk / accountant 1, and myself, Betty Simpson, assistant finance director. It is the desire of the investment team to be able to reach out and to be able to get the best investment rates for the monies that are available of idle funds within the city. We currently have about $10 million that are in investments, and we are looking at actually doing another $500,000 investment that we have just put up for a bid from the different banks. The investment, the Kansas Municipal KMIP, I'll shorten that up just a little bit, sets a rate on a daily basis that tells us as the city what the banks have to give us a rate at, and if the banks do not meet that rate, then we are able to go to the KMIP and invest with them. Fortunately, over the last 4 to 5 months, we have had very great investment rates come in from our local bankers, and we have not had to use the Kansas investment. But that is a tool for us in case we do get to a point where they're not able to meet those great rates for us. We would like to ask with the commission that they would make a motion and get a second on that to approve that, and then that Mayor Kaler would sign off on that. I would like to know if you have any questions for me. I'm not able to answer that. Scott Bird, I know, was able to step in on Monday. So.
Questions for Mrs. Simpson?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move to approve the request for the resolution as described.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded by our two bankers that we approve the resolution for the Kansas Municipal Investment Pool. Is there any discussion among commissioners?
I just want to add, this is a great vehicle to provide some competition for the idle funds, and I think it's great. It's set up very well. I'll say that even from our standpoint. But I think it's good that we've been able to capitalize on this higher rate of interest and just about double our interest income from the previous year, if I understand. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's good. It's good to see.
I think the one thing that I want to point out is that this isn't our money. This isn't anybody in the room's money. This is citizens' money. And we are trying to make informed decisions about what happens with citizens' money. And we take that very, very seriously here in the city of Ottawa. That is, I think, one of the most important things that we do is that we do collect a tax, and we want citizens to know that we are utilizing that tax in a responsible manner. And I think that this just moves us towards doing so.
Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? Then we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you. On to item 18.
A public hearing for the consideration of the establishment of a redevelopment district.
This public hearing has been called for a consideration of an establishment of a redevelopment district at Northwest I-35 and Princeton. I believe that Mrs. Lee, Mrs. Lee, right? Okay, Mrs. Lee, it's not on there, so I was like, I think it's Mrs. Lee, will be addressing this matter to the commission.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I believe it's me too, but I'm happy to step aside if somebody wants to take care of that.
Nobody's running up. It's okay, yeah.
Okay, so as you said, this is the time in which we're going to open the hearing for the tax increment financing district, and I'm just going to do just a brief little overview here at the beginning, and then
before you do that, let me officially open the hearing. There you go. It's officially open. There you go. 7:48. Sorry.
And then when I finish, we can you can obviously listen to any public comment that there may be.
Yes.
So your charge tonight is to consider both in the hearing and then after whether or not the establishment of a tax increment financing district is appropriate. Under the statute, there are 3 different findings you are required to make in order to declare a district, and that is first, you have to describe the area, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. You have to determine that the eligibility is appropriate, and in this case, one of the eligible areas is if it was an enterprise zone designated before 1992, and when we show you the pictures of the land, this area was designated by the governing body, I believe the first time in 1989 for these particular parcels. And then the third finding is that by declaring a district that it would promote general and economic welfare in the community. As we discussed a little bit on Monday, and obviously even back when we originally called the public hearing for tonight in December, there are several reasons why we as staff have put this application together to consider a district. For several years, we have had opportunities to see the ground redeveloped, and there have been different barriers depending on the interest, and some of which have never even gotten to the point of a landowner, and some have. In one case in particular, one of the barriers had to do, sometimes it's the fact that there's a gas line through it. Sometimes one of the ones that was a barrier for one of the potential developers was the fact that an existing sanitary sewer line would need to be relocated, and that cost would be borne by the developer or redeveloper. But one of the ones we've talked about quite a bit is that there's multiple access points along Princeton, and as we've been recently working with KDOT to do a true full-blown traffic study relative to the new industrial park, and its interreaction with the interchange at I-35 and Princeton, all those points of access create potential conflicts and safety issues. We have multiple ones between 23rd and the on-ramp for I-35, and that's been part of it, the challenge as we've looked at opportunities for development or redevelopment. But moreover, we expect the traffic on this road to increase significantly. And so as we've looked at opportunities to redevelop the area and work with developers who've looked at it, some of these utility and infrastructure issues are cost prohibitive in order to do what they want to do as well as what needs to happen. So similar to the price chopper, where there's a public benefit to having, meaning there really hasn't been an opportunity to develop the remaining ground. And so that has also been thwarted by the fact that access is a challenge. So we believe the second two we've just described, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the description now. So the legal area includes what was Lot 42 and Lot 43 of the County Clerk subdivision. Excuse me. It's outlined here in orange. Basically, it is the southwest corner of 23rd and Princeton, or immediately the northwest corner of I-35 and Princeton, between the Prairie Spirit Rail Trail and Princeton, and 23rd down to I-35, or another section of the Prairie Spirit Trail. The addresses included, as described in this area, would be 2304 South Princeton, 2320 South Princeton, 2334 South Princeton, 226 West 23rd, 210 West 23rd, and 2340 South Princeton. So that's the area. It's not, it sounds like a lot of addresses, but it's actually a fairly small piece of ground or area of ground. But as you can see from the diagram, there's been some development along the frontages, but there's ground here in the back that hasn't been developed. It's a gateway to our community, and we've had a lot of discussion in recent weeks about gateways, but this is important to us as a community as well. There's the demolition and site clearance that would have to occur on some of these parcels, as well as the infrastructure that I mentioned a few minutes ago. There is a high-pressure gas line in there that's also going to inhibit development in some ways, but again, if we can figure out ways for all of that to work together in concert, we can end up with more appropriate development at that intersection. In addition to the location, one of the things that we have to put together for the district is describe a plan. I mentioned a lot of the items to you that would be included in the plan just as we were talking about it, but here's another kind of a list. I didn't say things like sidewalks and trails and stormwater, but that's all a part of it as well. I did mention the demolition. There are some things that can happen on the private land, as well as things that would have to do with utility or street infrastructure that would be dedicated to the city. Includes street lighting. Again, it could be another utility relocation. Can even include gas line relocations, etc. Not the high pressure line. That's not that easily achieved. So that's really what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions, or you can move right into the public hearing, the public comment time, and then I can come back for questions if you like.
Commissioners, do you have questions?
Just a quick question, Mrs. Lee. Is there any of that that's in floodplain?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
There's no floodplain, but let me say, there is some serious stormwater issues in the site. Okay. There's a lot of runoff that comes from the highway, and anybody that's ever tried to walk between the Taco Bell and the Pizza Hut's going to know there's a pretty good sized drainage structure. Yeah. Yep. So there are some drainage challenges too.
Yeah, I did have a question. I can go back to that site picture there. There's a triangle in the southwest corner of that tract. Is that just out of this?
This right here?
Right. Is that considered outside?
That's owned by KDOT.
Okay.
So we didn't include it in the district.
Okay. I didn't know if that
might have
was
been
a spot.
Good thought, because we've talked about that we might talk at some point with KDOT about whether we could do some stormwater detention there, since some of that water's coming off the interstate, and it makes it difficult to fully develop up. But at this point, we haven't included it. We could add it to the district if we needed to at some point.
Okay, sure. All right, thanks.
Commissioners, additional questions for Mrs. Lee? I would entertain any questions from the public regarding this request. Again, is there any questions from the public regarding the establishment of a redevelopment district? Last call. Any questions? Okay, we will close the hearing. On to item 19.
Request for approval of ordinance establishing a redevelopment district.
This ordinance establishes a redevelopment district at Northwest I-35 and Princeton Road. I would entertain a motion if there is one.
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion. We approve item number 19.
It has been moved by Commissioner Skidmore. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Graves. Is there discussion among commissioners? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Next, that moves us on to item 20 in the agenda, which is a report by our city manager.
I have nothing, Commissioners.
On to reports by city commissioners. We'll start to my left, your right. Commissioner Jorgensen, it is 7:57.
As much as I'd like to delay you from seeing the KU basketball game tonight, I have no report either.
Okay, Commissioner Reed.
I also don't have a report.
Commissioner Skidmore.
I'd like to filibuster.
That's right.
Yeah,
on both
right.
sides. I just
Yeah,
want to make sure you know.
I'm outnumbered, so I.
And she brought those boots.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I don't have anything.
Commissioner Graves.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. On to reports by the mayor. I do want to thank USD 290 for coming and sharing their vision with us tonight. And I wrote a little note about that. I appreciate that you're not resting for okay, and that you're striving for success. I believe that tonight we had really some great conversation about how to embrace not only the students, but the future of our community. Let's Move is a great example. On the way here, I was looking for a basket to put my shoes in, and at the bottom of this basket was now for the younger people, Kenneth, you may not know what this is, but a mixed CD that a friend of mine made me in high school, the end of high school. And I just thought it was interesting that CD happened to be in the bottom of the basket that I wanted to use. And I thought about, well, I'm putting shoes in here that is going to build a teen park. And that's exactly when I got that CD. And that we, by little steps like that, we build a better Ottawa, we build a growing Ottawa, and we build a successful Ottawa. So I applaud all that is being done in our community. Announcements. We have our study session on the 6th and the 13th of February at 4 p.m. If you can't join us in person, you can always join us on Facebook. We also have on February 15th our regular City Commission meeting at 9:30 a.m., followed by our City County School Board joint meeting at noon here at City Hall. And then on the 16th, we also have a special call with our city-county partners from 10 to 12 here at City Hall Commission Chambers. If there's not anything else that needs to be brought before the body today, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? Emily?
I know, I almost did it. I'll second, yeah.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Go KU.